When we talk about mainstream Indian content, especially Hindi language series or films, the portrayal of Bengali culture has always been problematic. The representation is usually filled with stereotypes, exaggerated accents, and cliches that fail to actually capture the essence of Bengal and its people. However, Neeraj Pandey and Netflix have come together to create something different this time, something refreshing. Khakee, the Bengal chapter, and I must say, I thoroughly enjoyed. The series brings an authenticity to the streets of Kolkata that have been rarely seen in the mainstream of Indian cinema. It represents the city, the culture, and the people in a way that feels organic and real rather than forced and stereotypical. And that in itself is a huge achievement. The representation, the performances, the cinematography, the storytelling, and of course some of the flaws that were there is all part of this huge big gift that is given to you. If you've watched mainstream Bollywood or Hindi language content before, you'll know that Bengali culture is often portrayed in a very limited and exaggerated way. They usually show Bengalis wearing that iconic bordered red sari. It's almost as if it's the only thing Bengalis own. When it comes to the location as well, the filmmakers usually restrict themselves to the same few places, barely scratching the surface of what Kolkata and Bengal has to offer. But this time, the Khakee, the Bengal chapter, things were different. The way they represented the city, the feel, everything felt so much more authentic. They didn't just focus on the mainstream, picture perfect parts of Kolkata, they also showed the rural areas, the underbelly of the city, the real Bengal that many don't get to see in the films. And this is the huge win in terms of representation. Another thing that stood out in the series was the presence of some of the biggest names in Bengali cinema. One of the biggest problems in the industry today is that high profile actors often don't want to come together for content driven project. They prefer to work in their comfort zones, focusing on mainstream commercial cinema rather than taking risks that well written story driven content that can actually deliver. But Khakee, the Bengal chapter, managed to break that pattern. Just look at the incredible cast, man. We had Prasenjit Chatterjee, Jeet, Saswata Chatterjee, and Parambrata Chatterjee. Huge names in Bengali cinema, to be honest with you. All coming together for this project. And that's not something we see very often. This collaboration added so much weight in the series because these actors know how to bring depth to their characters. Each of them delivered standout performances. Jeet, for example, let's take. What a brilliant choice for this role, man. He's a legendary actor, and yet he didn't go overboard with his performance. He played a calm, composed, and sharp police officer who knew when to act and when to hold back. This kind of refrained acting is rare in mainstream Indian content, but where the over-top performances are often the norm, And then we have Saswat Chatterjee in the negative role. If you've seen his past work, you already know he's a powerhouse of talent. His performance here was gripping, chilling, and incredibly well executed. You could feel the menace in his presence, and that's what made his character so impactful. The newer faces like Ritwik Bhowmik were amazing. His chemistry with the other actors, the main second lead with Adil, shaped the story in a meaningful way. It was great to see the fresh talent getting in the opportunity alongside these veterans. To talk about the story, the Bengal chapter does borrow elements from other crime thrillers. The execution is what makes it stand out. The narrative is well paced, gripping, and filled with intense moments that keeps you engaged throughout. One of the things I really appreciated was the inclusion of the Kolkata's poorer rural areas in the storyline. Usually crime dramas often occasionally stick to the urban landscape, but here they made a conscious effort to show the struggles and the realities of the people living in the less privileged parts of the city. However, I do have one complaint, the dialogues. Since this was a series based in Bengal, I expected at least 75% of the dialogues to be in Bengali. With the rest of the 25%, let's be in Hindi. And to be honest with you, they lean too much towards Hindi. And I get it, it's a Hindi language show, but come on, man. If people can watch Narcos in Spanish or K-dramas in Korean, they can definitely handle a predominantly Bengal script with subtitles. Another thing I loved about this series was how the actors didn't exaggerate their emotions. There was no unnecessary melodrama, The characters had their moments, and when the time came, they performed exceptionally well without going over the top, Take Saswata Chatterjee's character for example. Spoiler alert, he's not around after the first half of the series, but even in the limited time, he had his presence and he was strong. That's what makes a performance so memorable. You don't need excessive screen time to leave an impact, just need to deliver the right when it matters. To talk about the cinematography, getting the true essence of Kolkata on screen is not easy task, man. I've seen plenty of films that were shot in Kolkata, but they never felt like Kolkata. But the Bengal chapter absolutely nailed it. The streets, the buildings, the atmosphere, it feels so rich and immersive. Every frame captured the depth of the city, making you feel like you were right there. And this is something that he deserves huge appreciation because cinematography can make or break a series, In this case, it definitely elevated the entirety of the storyline. Now, that just doesn't mean that I've only loved it every single time. Let's address the only one major issue that I had. The way Prasenjit Chatterjee's character was handled towards the end. Now, this is what I call the Game of Thrones little finger problem. You build up a mastermind character so well, someone who is always 3 steps ahead, someone who controls every move like a chess player, and then when it comes to the big conclusion, they just don't know how to end it. Prasenjit Das' character has so much potential, but the final act felt underwhelming. Instead of a grand confrontation, we got an ending that felt like a missed opportunity. Ideally, we should have seen Jeet's character facing off against Prasenjit Das, leading to a cinematic moment where justice is served with the fans going wild. But instead, the resolution felt a bit rushed. Despite a few minor issues, Khakee the Bengal Chapter is a fantastic watch. It's one of the rare times Netflix has done a series, especially in Indian series, right. And that itself is worth appreciating. The performances, the cinematography, and the representation makes this a must watch. So yes, definitely give it a shot. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.